Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. This is a really interesting episode for me. I don't have a guest today. I'm looking back at the last year of all my podcasts, and I'm a look back person. I'm not a regrets person, but I am a look back person because when I look back and then I see where I am today, it makes me feel encouraged when I know I'm doing better, or I've learned something new, or I'm incorporating, something different in my food plan or my stress management plan. And I have to tell you, I am so darn blessed that I had this level of podcast guests in the last year. My podcast is just a year old, and I can't believe the level of talent that has been on this podcast. I have learned so much, and as most of you know, I didn't want to do this podcast. I was tired from all the surgeries. I don't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the energy for it. And I really felt that still small voice inside that was just pushing me. I really believe this was divine intervention to start this podcast. And it has just been such a blessing to me, and I'm hoping it's been a blessing to all of you. So let's take a deep dive into all the different episodes. I'm going to hopefully cover 8 today. I like doing the takeaways, because if you don't have time to listen to the whole podcast, you can just listen to the first few minutes, get your takeaway, and move on with your day. So my first guest was Jamie Winship, and he is, honestly, I would consider him a fear expert. He can turn it around for you. He can give you the tools. Jamie spent 30 years in the Middle East as an anti-terrorism expert. So he knows all about fear. So here was my original takeaway. We all have the capacity to manage our own fear. We can push the pause button in the middle of our fear and take a few deep breaths. That is one thing that I have really incorporated. We all have a tendency to just get really wound up in our day. We lose focus, and pushing the pause button, taking a couple of deep breaths, and also just slowing down my mind. My mind, just like all of you, I'm sure, has a tendency to jump to the most negative thing that could possibly happen. I maybe get an email that is mildly negative, and I go to, DEFCON 4. So Jamie's work about pushing the pause button, knowing that you can manage your own fear, taking a couple of deep breaths, has been really helpful for me. Sometimes I just need to remember to do it. That's my problem. His second takeaway is to realize it's easier to believe fear than the truth. And that, when he said that to me, I thought, I don't know that I really believe that. And then I started to really think about it, and I realized, okay, back to that example of getting a slightly negative email, I go right to, the absolute top of my emotions. I have a reaction. I build this whole thing up, and all I really needed to do was push the pause button, believe the best, and seek more information before I respond. I admit I'm an epic overreactor, and in the last year, I don't want to be that person anymore. So I push the pause button, gather my thoughts, do some deep breathing, and that gives me a chance to figure out what kind of questions do I want to ask to gather more information before I respond instead of react. My second episode was with Johnny Emmerman. Johnny Emmerman had cancer at a very young age, and it was rough. And Johnny realized as he was in the hospital, he was in his 20s, And he would walk around the hospital after his treatments, encouraging other people. Johnny started an organization called Emmerman Angels, and that's where I met Liza, who was my breast cancer mentor. And she really helped me to see a life beyond cancer and beyond hospital visits and beyond the season I was in. So what I loved, Johnny's takeaway was that his goal was to show people that they can get across the finish line and through the power of vision. And so Johnny's goal is to connect people who are walking through whatever type of cancer with somebody else who's on the other side of that. And it brings me back, when I think about having a vision, it brings me back to one of my favorite Bible scriptures, which is, without a vision, a man perishes. And if I wake up with a vision every day, I am unstoppable. If I feel a little bit lost, like I just don't have a vision of getting on the other side of something, or a vision of how to put together a podcast or interview somebody, then I usually have a pretty rough day. So focusing on vision, surrounding yourself with people who encourage you in your vision, mentor you, give you great information has truly been just a game changer for me in all areas of my life, but certainly for this podcast as well. My next podcast was with Ben Salem. Ben is such an interesting guy. He saw a need and he filled it. And he started a company called WaveBlock, which basically will protect you from non-native radiation, which non-native means the radiation that comes off of your phone or your earbuds or your laptop or your iPad. Ben created this product purely out of necessity. He saw earbuds in his kids' ears all day long. This was during COVID. So they'd be, doing Zoom classes during the day and then on their bikes for the afternoon, always having the earbuds in. And he also had a baby, and this baby, he got an EMF meter and he took the meter around the baby's room, and he realized there were so many EMFs in the room, from the baby monitor to the fire alarm. So again, purely out of necessity, he figured out how to weave a baby blanket, a baby bumper that knocked down the EMF radiation. And so he thought, well, now I want to do this for my kids. So I'm a huge fan of his product. One of my big takeaways from Ben was that we're just all so used to technology that we don't really think about potential damage that it could be doing for us. And he also mentioned that perhaps there's a reason why Wi-Fi is banned in some countries in their nurseries and in their schools. And recent research has shown that kids' skulls absorb radiation 10 times more than an adult skull. So we got to pay attention, and technology is not going away. And one of my big takeaways from this takeaway is that I'm a lot more cautious about how I carry my cell phone on my body. So I give a lot more thought now about how to protect my body from this non-native radiation. So I carry my phone on airplane more often. I have my phone in an EMF case that helps to knock down the radiation. I use WaveBlock on my AirPods so that I can put them in my ears, and I just don't think about that radiation anymore. So I think that, we're surrounded with technology. It's not going away. We just need to figure out a way to manage it in the most healthy manner we can. Next up is my interview with Kitty Marone. She has an amazing podcast called Stuff Your Doctor Should Know, and she's also the Healthy Gut Girl. I've been a fan of hers for a really, really long time. Listened to most of her podcasts. And of course, our conversation was all about gut. So interestingly enough, though, one of my biggest takeaways is that you need to figure out how to manage your stress. Don't try to get rid of it. You're just working on managing it. And the way you do that is you actively pursue calming yourself down. This makes me think back to my first podcast with Jamie Winship, where we can learn to manage our fear. And for most of us, fear is stress, and stress can ignite fear. So figuring out ways to calm yourself down, again, pushing that pause button, taking a few deep breaths. For me, I will go outside. I will walk in my yard with my shoes off, even when it's raining. You know, I live in Seattle. It's cold and rainy 9 months a year, and I'm still outside. Yes, walking around my yard, grounding, taking deep breaths. It doesn't take long. Sometimes I'll just go into my carport and walk around for a couple of minutes just to breathe some fresh air, see the sky, figure out what's going to work for you to help to really calm yourself down. The other takeaway that Kitty told us was that 80% of your immune system and those immune system decisions are made in the gut. So figure out ways to support your gut. For her, it's going to be fermented foods, drinking enough water, managing stress, eating high fiber, prebiotic foods as well. So figure out how to actively add more gut supporting foods into your day. And that's going to help to really boost and support your immune system. Episode 6 and 7 was with Chris Beat Cancer. Okay, this guy, he's absolutely amazing. Love his writing, love his cookbook. And it was just a real pleasure to talk with Chris. And because he was 2 episodes, I've got quite a few takeaways. Probably the first takeaway was shocking to me. And he said, what I think is just as important as what I eat. Okay, that is absolutely incredible, because you could be eating the healthiest diet in the world, totally anti-cancer. But if you're thinking negative thoughts about somebody, you're harboring unforgiveness, Chris is actually saying that is just as toxic as eating a bunch of junk food. So I think that is really something to think about. So that was a pretty big takeaway for me. And how I've applied it to my life is, before I sit down to eat, I want to be calm and I want to be peaceful and I want to be thinking good thoughts, because I know it's going to help with my digestion. So before I start a meal, I just do a quick little inventory in my brain and I think, okay, do I have anything negative? Do I have anything against somebody? Do I have anything that's just upsetting me? And I think about it, I work through it, I ask God to help me with my thoughts, and then I'll eat my meal. And I got to tell you, I feel like I'm much calmer. I eat slower, and eating slower is also really great for digestion. Chris's second takeaway was also really inspiring. And he said, you have to believe that you can get well and that healing is possible. And I know when you're in the thick of it, that's probably the last thing. I can certainly say that was the last thing on my mind, that my body could really heal throughout this cancer journey. And this was really inspiring. Again, this really opened up my eyes that there's lots of different ways to heal, and your body wants to be well. And sometimes we just need to give it more tools to do that. That might mean better stress management. It might be trying to get an extra 30 or 40 minutes of sleep every night. Start to really check in with your body and see what it needs so that it can do the job it's meant to do, which is heal. His third takeaway was shocking. I loved it so much. He was saying there's a great study that said 5 fruits and vegetables a day and 30 minutes of walking daily. And he said really walking with a purpose, not just, maybe strolling around the house, can slash your breast cancer reoccurrence by 50% after 9 years. That is absolutely incredible information. And there's not a drug with no side effects on the market that can slash your reoccurrence of breast cancer by 50%. So again, this is one of those takeaways that shows you that your body is so powerful and you just need to give it the tools to do what it can. I found this tip to be really encouraging, especially on those days when I just don't feel like going for a walk, or, I just maybe haven't had a very good food day. And I actually do make a bigger effort to maybe grab a banana or, grab some, sliced broccoli or something so I can increase my fruit and vegetable consumption for the day. There is lots of takeaways with episode number 8. Jody Cohen, founder of Vibrant Blue Oils. I'm a huge fan of essential oils. I've been kind of playing around with them for the last 30 years. So one of my takeaways, I did not know this. She said, our sense of smell is 10,000 times stronger than any other sense that we have. And smell can really impact our health. Okay, that was absolutely incredible. Who would have ever thought that we could inhale something and that it could really, help us calm down, maybe lower inflammation, boost our immune system. And so she was saying, don't make it too complicated. Just go outside, smell a rose, smell a grapefruit in your kitchen, smell the pine tree, and it can really help to calm you down. Okay, my second takeaway from that episode, I didn't even mention in the original episode. I had to go back and listen to it a couple of times, and I realized, oh my gosh, this is just an absolutely incredible takeaway. So Jody was telling me that, so many of us get anxious, we get panicky during the day. And she said that it is usually a right frontal lobe issue. So if you stimulate the left side of your frontal lobe, that can help to calm you down. So she said, put your finger on the right side on your nostril, push your right nostril in, and smell anything out of your left nostril. So you could peel an orange, you could smell a rose, you could smell some lemon. She said, honestly, you could smell anything. Take 3 to 5 breaths through the left nostril, in and out through the left nostril, and it balances the hemispheres of your brain, lowers anxiety, and can help with panic attacks. What a simple way to try to manage your anxiety and end up also managing your fear by taking more breaths out of the left side of your nose instead of the right. Amazing takeaway for me. I love my cell phone. I love my AirPods, I admit it. But what I don't love is the radiation and electromagnetic frequencies that are coming out of both of those things. So all of a sudden, I got this ad on Instagram about this product called WaveBlock. Honestly, it seemed too good to be true. So I called the owner. His name is Ben, and we had an amazing conversation about this product he created basically to protect his kids from EMFs that were coming out of cell phones and headphones and you name it. He explained the whole process to me, how he took it to Europe to get it tested, and how it really can block the EMFs that are coming out of our devices. So I've got a great coupon code for all of our listeners today. Go to the WaveBlock website. It's in today's show notes. Use the code ENOS20, and you can get 20% off of his products. 2 of the products that I'm currently using are his wraparound WaveBlock for my AirPods, and then I also just got a new cell phone, and he has a sticker that can go on the back of the cell phone that is also going to help to knock down the EMFs. It just gives me a little bit more comfort, I think, with using these items. Go to today's show notes to get your 20% off coupon for WaveBlock. Thank you for joining me today on the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I've got my shopping guide for all of my cancer self-care items in the show notes, along with information about today's guest and our show sponsors. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast so you never miss an episode. Keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a gal that got diagnosed with cancer and wanted answers. If you need medical advice, please be sure to consult with a medical professional. And thank you for listening.